What up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Hi, guys. Welcome to Legendary Talks, episode 110. We have the amazing Amber Clapp joining us tonight. Today is December 1st, so it's World AIDS Day. We want to remember all of those that were affected, that were gone too soon, and it's still a very big issue in our country and in our world. So we want to just, honor and respect that today. It's also Janelle Monáe's birthday, so we want to celebrate her, the freedom fighter that she is, the icon, fashion icon, and amazing creative human. I see Amber has joined us. Let me call her in. There she goes. It's her first. I like people's first time. She's a virgin. She's a very special, amazing. Oh, Diana Ross is watching. Hi, Amber. Go this way.
Hey. I gotta change it. Okay. There we go.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? Your glasses are cute. You look good.
Oh, thanks. You look good too.
Thank you. My 100th episode.
Oh my God, you're racking them up.
I know. You said talk canons, but just so kind of what the format is that I kind of celebrate people that have been really important to culture in every gamut of culture. Basically, specifically, kind of New York party, New York 90s, 2000s, things like that. But people that 80s as well. People that just have been really important to culture in every aspect. So I thought, about a month ago, I said Amber would be great to have on here because you and I know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure other people watching will know the story. So I can't wait to share.
Yeah, we have a long history together. We worked together for years.
The first question I like to ask everybody is to describe yourself to me as if I did not know you.
Well, my name's Amber Klopp, and I moved to New York in the mid 90s. And I started out as a stylist and then transitioned to being a publicist. So, and that was like gradual. And I ended up doing a lot of events, a lot of big parties.
I didn't know a lot of that back history, so I can't wait to discuss. I would just as calm, cool, a little hyper, fair, and I've seen you in like extremely stressful situations. You're always have like a level head about it. You never lose your cool, which is, I know, from firsthand experience as well. That's exactly what that job is. It's like you have to just roll with it. I always say that. You mean?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do. You just got to solve the problem.
Now when I face situations, I said, we'll work it out. We'll work it out. That's what I tell my clients. Where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Massachusetts. I grew up in Cohasset. So, and I spent like my youth going to Boston nightclubs and working for Boston nightclubs.
Okay.
So.
And if a movie could like define your childhood or teenage, what movie would that be?
A combination of probably Less Than Zero and I don't know. The Less Than Zero probably is the best. I grew up in a very crazy small town in New England.
What song like defined your childhood or teenage?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. I always really loved like rock and roll. I don't know. I don't have like one. There's so many like songs. I can't pick one really. I don't know.
Well, what one jumps out to you right now, like off the top of your head?
Well, Houses of the Holy from Led Zeppelin. But that's because I just had like a flashback to a memory of like Cohasset.
And then who's the first model that you remember ever, like in life?
Kelly Emberg. I was hugely influenced by the 80s models. So it was like Kelly Emberg and Paulina Perskova. And I always knew I was going to do something in fashion. Like I was very drawn to magazines and style. And yeah, I had a whole wall filled with like 80s models in my room growing up.
What drew you? Like, why do you think you were drawn to it?
My grandmother was very fashionable. Like she never wore pants. Like she always like matched. She wore gloves. She had her hair done all the time. She was she just never went out of the house not made up, and I just always really looked up to her for her style.
Kind of glamorous or something, right?
Very glamorous.
Um, yeah, I would say like, I'm from Detroit, as you know my Detroit crew very well, but
Very well.
from Detroit, so I think we were drawn to that kind of stuff because it was either really creative or you kind of like you walk towards the gray or you go against it. That's what I always say. So
Yeah, and it was pretty conservative where I grew up. It
yeah,
was very preppy.
yeah,
And I never felt connected to that. And I would look in the magazines. I remember Cosmo was like the first magazine that I started buying, which I mean, that's like extreme, like sexy, whatever. And it was just, I identified more with that than what I was seeing like around where I grew up.
yeah. I think that anyone that we'll get to that in a minute, but anyone that kind of feels that way, moves. We all move.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it start baby steps out, right? Like, and then you get to the big city.
What concert you went to?
Excuse me?
The first concert you went to?
Molly Hatchet.
You're funny. You're really funny. And I'm an optimist or a pessimist?
100% optimist. I'm always an optimist.
Yeah, I think so too. I was curious as to what you were going to say, but you are an optimist. I was going to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to get me down.
And then why did you move to New York?
I actually moved with my girlfriends. We were all living in Miami and we were like kind of done and wanted to go to the next level. And one of my girlfriends got discovered and kind of overnight became like a sensation in the modeling world. And we all decided to move to New York
Got
because
it.
she had to be there. And yeah, it was like a mass migration out of Miami Beach.
Um, and in the late mid '90s or late '90s, you said.
I think we moved to New York in 95, maybe 96.
And who was your first kind of? Where'd you live? First of all, where'd you move to?
Mercer Street. I
Oh,
lived right above Dojo's on Mercer Street. It was my first apartment. Yeah.
do it. Um,
NYU.
who was your first New York crew? Like that first hardcore crew?
Oh, well, it was myself and my girlfriend Kirsty, who I moved to New York with. And then I met Shalom like the second weekend I was there. And then my girlfriend Lori Baker. And then a friend of mine from Boston was friends with Jeff Gossett, who used to have Moomba, remember? But he was working at Merc Bar, and so Lou sent us over to Merc Bar. So we were like right in with Jeff Gossett from like the second weekend we were there. And then as far as like I met like Medhat and Anastasi from Casa La Femme that like right away, and like I kind of had my crew, the same crew I've always had, kind of started right in the beginning.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And describe New York during that time. Like, what was New York like?
Oh my God, it was magical. Like I mean, it was literally anything could happen. Like you would go out at night and just think you were going to like do something mellow, and it would end into a like kind of a circus. You would end up at some crazy party, sitting at a table with Oscar winners. Like you never knew what was going to happen. You walked out your door and you like never knew what was going to happen. It was really a unique experience.
Well, it was electric. I feel like the minute you step out
Electric. Perfect. Yes.
and you would go with a friend for a drink, and they would invite you to this place, and you go to it was like you'd leave your house at I don't know 8 p.m. and get home at
Yes. And
and the whole night, and had been like you're saying, like with like I don't know Robert De Niro at one place, and it was like it was never
yes, it was never what you expected.
me. Nightlife during that time, or New York was. I think nightlife was the dominant thing in New York City at that time. It was so dominant. It's like
Oh,
every
yes.
was huge. You mean?
Huge. I mean, it was well, Miami was pretty happening when we left, like it was pretty like a hot spot. But to come to New York and see the next level of what Miami was like it was a lot. It was nonstop interesting. It was pretty amazing.
It was never a dull moment, and it was truly electric. Like I said, like you'd step out your
Yes.
at 8 p.m. and you just didn't know what each night was going to bring you. Each night was like amazing and different every night. You mean
Amazing and different every night. I mean,
like you could
there,
write these things, but like it's so amazing. Like,
yeah, and I was kind of like, when I was younger, I read about Andy Warhol, and I had worked for Details magazine, the old school crew in Boston at the nightclubs. So like, I was a huge Details magazine. I read Egg. I was big into Interview magazine. I knew every person, and I would come down to the city and like go to Trixie's for dinner and that kind of stuff. So like, it was everything you wanted it to be when you got here in the 90s, because I had been following it from the 80s, like I lived for Steven Saban's columns and Details, and I don't know, that whole culture was so fascinating to me, and I felt more connected to it than where I was. So yeah,
it's
it was
interesting.
amazing.
Honestly, too, I've studied Studio 54 and things as like a young person.
Hmm.
All of that. You were really studying from Boston. You mean?
Yeah, for sure, and trying to emulate. Like, I mean, I worked in the clubs. Like, I created two art galleries in the major clubs in the city. I did a lot of like the parties I did in New York that I did like, parties like that, like with themes and turning the clubs into the atmospheres.
And then what was your first job in New York? You said styling?
Styling, yeah. I
So,
came as a stylist.
and how was that? I didn't know you styled. How was that?
Oh yeah, I styled for 9 years. I was a stylist. I came Boston, I was a stylist, went to Miami, and then I started in New York. And I just didn't love it in New York.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of lost interest in it.
Because I had Ken on here the other night, which you watched, and
Yes.
I was kind of styling on my own as well around that time. And I always said I knew I didn't love it when I was doing it. I
Yeah,
was.
me too. I just didn't get into it in New York for some reason.
It came fairly easy to me. I just was not. I always said for me, I was always looking at the clothes like that would be cute for me. That would be cute for me. That's not what the style do it. Like I would like that jacket for me, not so.
My thing was like the money jobs. I didn't want to do those. I wanted to dress everyone like old movie stars. So I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to do the catalog or whatever it is. Like, it wasn't for me.
So how did you get into parties?
It organically happened. It was my girlfriend's birthday, and I think she was turning 20, I think. And she wanted to have like a Barbie birthday. So I just like was like, all right, I can do that. So I had a friend, Jimmy Franzo from New York, who hooked me up with people in the city. And I met like Billy and Irv, who I'm sure you remember, and they were working at Club USA, and they're like, oh, we can get it paid for, and you can make decorations. So we made this huge, excuse me, Barbie playhouse for my girlfriend's birthday. We made like giant lipsticks and huge powder puffs. So we had all the go-go girls dress up in Barbie outfits, and then she dressed up as a Barbie, and it was like this crazy, amazing party. And it was at Club USA, which at the time was like, was nuts.
Right.
And yeah, so that was my first introduction, and I like met kind of a lot of people through that because everyone was hanging out in that world.
Well,
Tobacco, we were going to Tobacco a lot, like Roy Leventhal and that crew, and
Cafe Tobacco is kind of when I came to New York. I feel like I think it was a Sunday.
yeah,
I remember that being just this amazing kind of diverse utopia of like fabulousness. I loved that party. You mean?
yeah. And then the Bowery Bar, like the Bowery Bar turned into being that too with Eric, and that was pretty amazing. The Bowery Bar back in the day.
I kind of forgot about the bar. You're right.
Yeah.
So how did you become friends with every model? Like how did that, I know it's friends with them, but how did that happen?
Yeah, so it started from my girlfriend Kirsty got discovered in South Beach when we were living in South Beach together.
Kirsty Ann?
And yes,
Yeah.
and she all of a sudden it was like a whirlwind. Like she went from like just we were all on the beach, and then she was like jetting off to go to do the shows, and then she was like the bride in one of the shows, and it was like from then on the train had left. Like she was on the cover of Bazaar like within a couple months.
Yeah.
So it was our little group in Miami, and so we were like, oh, she has to go to New York, we'll all go to New York.
Yeah.
And then when I got to New York, another one of my girlfriends, Lori Baker, was living in New York too, and she was friends with Shalom because her roommate had lived in Paris with Shalom. So then it was like, it just snowballed from there. It was like Kirsty was new in the business, and we introduced her to Shalom so she would know people. And then we just like, Trish Goff and Michelle Hicks and the Amber Valletta. I mean, it just snowballed. I mean, it was, everyone just knew each other. It was like it was not a small, it was kind of like an extended family,
Yeah, because that crew was all really tight and they were all real friends too, you could tell,
Real friend. Yeah, real friends. Like it wasn't just about fashion. Like we did big dinners and we went to the beach, we just did activities. We were going to the museum. Like it was like we roamed around the city doing cool stuff. It was really a unique time. I don't think that fashion has ever seen that again. I think it kind of timed out when that group went through after they went through.
The George Michael Freedom era of supermodeldom. Like this is like
yes. I mean, that was so amazing.
These are when supermodels were important and had so much currency. Just being a supermodel, there's so much, not even just financial, but I'm talking about actual power as a supermodel. They were much.
Well, they were interesting on their own. Do you know what I mean? All those girls, it wasn't like a bunch of dumb blondes. Like each one of those girls was very intelligent. And they all had interests in the arts. They all, it was all about a lifestyle that was like full. It was cultural. It wasn't just like shopping. Like none of those girls were like that. But we were also down in the East Village at the punk rock bars too. Like the Baby Lounge and all those places. Like we would go see all kinds of music. And I mean, it was not what people thought it was. There was more dimension to it.
Well, it was kind of less glamorous in a way, but it was much more real in a great way. You mean?
Yeah. It was like, it was kind of like, I guess college or, like we were just like living the New York dream, really.
It was like college, but also flying to Paris to do Chanel.
Yes, on the Concorde, like coming back.
3 days, so, I just remember thinking with those girls in particular, their schedules were so insane to me. Like their schedules were insanity, and they handled it really well. They would be out at parties, but then they'd be, it would be like the schedules were just like this for years, not weeks, years. They were like this, the schedules.
Oh my God, super professional though. Like those girls were on those. I mean, the schedules they kept back in that time. I was always just like so surprised that they had the stamina to keep that going, because like it was long and when the shoots were different too back then. It was like long days and big trips, and I mean it was an intense time.
And so what do you think your first big break was party wise?
I would say the Naomi Campbell Kate Moss, you were there. Halloween party that Mara and I did.
So, to this day, the craziest door I've pretty much worked. I mean, I worked some crazy doors. I'm not sure if it's number one, but it's in the top 3 or something that I've ever worked in my entire life. And I've worked probably 1,000 doors, maybe more. I have no idea. It was Naomi Campbell and Kate Moss's Halloween party at Clapp, or where was it? Supper Club.
Supper Club. It was at the Supper Club, yeah.
And it was what, like 98, 99 or something?
I think it was 98. I think it was 98. Yeah, it was early.
Here's how I remember this part. Because I remember us not even seeing each other. It was me and Linda Garcia doing the door together, and it was,
of course,
it was insanity. And we didn't see each other barely all night, you and I. And I remember we went to go in and get a drink. Because we worked our asses off. We worked so hard.
Oh, I mean that door. Remember just going outside, and I was dressed as that crazy housewife. Remember, I had the curlers and the robe, and people screaming at me that I know Amber Clapp. I'm on the sheet. And I'm like, I just looked over at you and I'm like, oh yeah, they know Amber Clapp. Well, let's get him in here.
Basically, yeah. Halloween party. And I think that how I remember it was a long time ago. It was relatively supposed to be controlled, small kind of VIP party.
Yes.
And Naomi gave either to you or me, I don't remember, one of us, a list of people that couldn't come. Do you remember? Handwritten list.
Yeah. Yes. It was a big one.
I light harder already. And then I remember they got there really late. They looked amazing. They got there really late. But the door itself, it was literally every single person that existed in that
the world.
I remember we pulled Christina Ricci underneath the thing. I physically pulled her, I remember.
Because she was getting crushed, remember? She was getting crushed. That was so crazy.
Yeah,
But remember, I think Naomi went on a talk show or something and told about the party, and then it lost control. Like, there was some thing that started that whole, like, nutsness.
I remember it being kind of like about 200 or 400 people, whatever, very manageable. And then looking around, that was what it was supposed to be. 1,000 or 2,500 people insanely trying to get it. It was insane. It was insanity to me. What
was insane. I mean, that was crazy. And then I had like people like Michael Douglas that was like came early, and I had to sit with him and have drinks and like sitting up there because Ann Jones had sent him early so that he wouldn't be stuck in the crowd from the bet party. And I just like, and I knew things were going crazy for you guys, but she told me not to leave him alone. So I was like, and he's a lovely guy. Like, I love Michael Douglas is everything you want him to be because he was just cool and engaging and everything. But I was sitting there trying to keep my cool, knowing that like it was going down outside.
Trying not to look at the door, but it's
oh yeah, crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, Vogue magazine did the 10 best parties of like the century or something, and that was one of them.
Yeah, I think it did make that list. It was we did some epic Halloween parties. You were at all of them.
Another one I remember was Donovan Leitch and Kirsty Hume, which they did a lot, but they did the Lot 61. I think it was
with Amy.
And Puffy and J-Lo were dating at the time. They came not in costume. Giselle dressed up like a man. She looked great.
Yeah, with Angela. Angela Linville was dressed up like a man too.
Yeah.
And that was the party. That was like I think that was the first one at Lot 61 because then we got really extravagant with like the Garden of Good and Evil, and then we did the the Madame Butterfly party. Yeah. We always had such amazing people come and decorate. Like it was always like a moment,
And then we did, which I have no idea what year this is, but it was Heidi Klum's kind of introduction to Victoria's Secret. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, that's right. You were at the party. I did the first ever Angels thing.
Yep.
Yeah, totally. They came out of the spaceship with Mochiba.
Yep. And then she was brand new. Heidi Klum was a brand new model. I don't know who she was, and she was very nice. She was young. And I remember you told me, you're like, me and Linda, do you have some silver clothes or some futuristic clothes? Of course I do.
Right, because they had the whole spaceship thing. It was like Karen Mulder and I think Inez, and I think it was Heidi's first thing. It was the first event ever. It launched Angels, what became the huge Victoria's Secret thing. We did the first party.
Yep.
And it was amazing because Mochiba played, and they were such a great act to have at a party. That was awesome. I forgot I told you guys to wear silver clothes. You guys always love to dress up.
Have something silver or futuristic. I'm like, how rude. Of course I do. Then I remember another one. This is later. I don't remember whose party it was. I feel like Carolina Karkova, one of them. She kept saying she wants a milkshake. Do you remember that story? She kept going,
I don't remember that one.
Milkshake, a milkshake. And you kept texting me, she wants a milkshake. We're on some group text, and you're like, she wants a milkshake, she wants a milkshake. She wanted to hear Khaleesi's song Milkshake, which was like the hottest song at the time, but you thought she wanted an actual milkshake.
Oh my God. Oh my God, that's like when I thought the Strokes came. Remember that party the Strokes came to, and I thought their name was the Sprockets, and I was like, this band, the Sprockets are coming. They're supposed to be huge, and you're like, Sprockets? What are you talking about?
What are some other, like, that's a few, but like, I think the Kate Moss and Naomi one to me is like, that's like extremely legendary, that one. And it's kind of like you had to have been there. You had to have been working it to experience how insane it was, you mean? Because,
yeah.
And if I remember correctly, and I think this is true, Naomi, towards the end of the night, and we'll get Linda to confirm it, but I'm pretty sure Naomi looked at us and she saw me and Linda. We're like, we worked hard. Honestly, it's one of the hardest things I ever did. She took $500 out of her pocket and either gave it to us, gave her like extra money. She's like, here, I know you guys worked so hard.
Oh my God, see, Naomi gets a bad rap, but like she does a lot of stuff like that. Like I did a lot of things with her, and she was always cool to my people, like to my staff. She was like always super generous, like with tips and things.
Naomi, and I've dealt with Naomi throughout the years, and I've always had a good experience every single time.
Yeah, I mean, I've had moments with her, but like for the most part, she's a kind-hearted person, and she's very like she appreciates when people go the extra mile.
I remember she looked over, it was towards the end of the night, and we were still at the door, and she saw us kind of like, we need a drink or something, and she like could tell
Yeah.
because of like her or whoever told all these, whoever let the cat in the bag of the party was happening. Hundreds from her purse, I remember, and gave them to me and Linda.
That's like, I mean, she did that stuff a lot. Like, I mean, she was always super cool like that with taking care of people. So,
what are some other kind of highlights or some other parties that you remember? Well, okay, we also one more that we did, but we did the Giselle recently. The Giselle like 20th, was it her 20th anniversary?
yeah, the 20th anniversary book party for the Taschen book. Yeah, that was amazing. I hadn't done an event in a long time, and I called Sean McPherson up, of course, at the Bowery Bar, and was like, "Can we do it here?" I mean, at the Bowery Hotel, and I was like, "Can we do it here?" And then I called you, and yeah, it was like I hadn't done an event. I kind of stopped doing events, like when bottle service came, things got weird in New York. I didn't think that it was the same as like it changed everything kind of.
Yeah.
And it was like so much fun to get the old band back together, kind of, and do that event. It was fun.
Con being there. How did you meet Nur?
Oh my God, the Nur story is funny. So I met Nur like out and about, right? And I thought he told me that he was a trainer, like a physical trainer, like what do you call it, fitness trainer. And we were all living in this apartment on, who was it on? It was across the street from Casa La Femme. I forget which street it was. And it was this big loft, and everyone was kind of like miserable and out of shape. And I was like, oh, I met this trainer. He gave me his number. But he had said trader, not trainer. So I called him up. And that's how I met Nur. That's totally how I met Nur. I thought he was a physical trainer, and I was trying to get the crew back in shape. And he was a trader. And we were friends from then on. Like, we ended up like, back then we didn't have cell phones, so we were always like, make a plan from the house at 6 o'clock, and then everyone would go out. But he didn't have any, he was still trading. He was still on the stock exchange.
Yeah, the very original NerdCon, right?
Yeah, I mean, I loved him from the minute I met him.
Because I did the door at Wax, I think, and Wax, and that was again kind of the supermodel heyday during that time,
Yeah, that was like, I mean, Wax was everything. I mean, it was like Wax and Spy were like, when those left, and then everybody moved kind of to Mumba, things changed. And once Mumba kind of was fizzling out is when I feel like New York got different. Once you could buy your way into cool, New York kind of sucked because those bottle people were like, they were bad. Like, it was bad. Like, it changed everything.
What are some other kind of highlights or parties that you remember? Like, what,
Well, I loved the cabaret party we did with Alan Cummings. You worked that one too, didn't you? Yeah. That was amazing. Like, that we got to take over that space, and it was before right before he won his Tony. And we did it with Ellen Point Unworth, and oh my God, remember the entertainment? It was that was a fantastic party.
And that was at the right?
Excuse me?
Kit Kat Club, was it?
The Kit Kat Club, yeah, the Kit Kat Club. And I don't know, I loved all the Halloween parties. We had so many good Halloween parties. Like, the atmospheres we were able to create inside the spaces. Like, we put that big tree up for the Adam and Eve one with that famous, I forget his name, it was David something, for the Adam and Eve party. And then like we turned the whole Lot 61, and Amy and I would like get into it. Like, we would find people to do the most incredible environments. And then a New Year's Eve party we did with Boy George, we made it snow at midnight. So we had this theatrical company. Did you work that door? I think you did.
I did, actually. I think I was not available. Wait,
maybe Megan did then, because it was like we had the snow come down, and we had everyone dressed in like toxic waste suits to clean it up. It was like pretty amazing. They had goggles on, and like it was very surreal.
But I did, but I think it was the Bulgari store opening. Was that you?
No, that wasn't me.
That was a good one too. That was Boy George. So anyway, the Giselle one that we did, so we did it about 2 years ago, was that? How long was that?
It might have been 3 years ago. I think it was like 3 years ago.
So what was cool about that party is that it was kind of like people had grown up. These are people that had been like going to, your events for like 20 years, but it was
Forever.
fun because it was like the gang's all back together. And I remember
Hmm.
her tell her something at some point. Something was like not right. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, the door shut or something. And she's like, I don't care. She just want to dance. She's like, I just want to dance all night. And she did dance all night, literally. She was on the dance floor for 3 hours, like literally just living her best life, which was like exactly what she wanted to do. It was amazing. So, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the best part was like, between Heretzi and Mike Williams, we always had like the best DJs. I mean, I think about all the parties at the park and all the parties at the Bowery Bar. And I mean, we really just, it was all about fun. Like, we just really wanted to have fun and we really loved like a theme. So everyone would get dressed up or get into the theme. And then it was so special too, like all the small places like Wax and Spy were so special. I mean, that's kind of, they were like the Studio 54 of the 90s, you know?
Yeah, they were. I mean, anything goes there at all those places. There were no rules at all.
Sway goes in with that too. I mean, that was later, but I mean, Sway too, Moomba and Sway.
I remember, and I could be right, Wax and them, they never closed ever. They never closed. Like they just stayed open until, they didn't, we're like,
We closed. What are you talking about? We closed.
I remember sometimes to like 5:30 in the morning, like waiting for people. I'm like, it's 6. This is like coming to be light. I'm still working the door sometimes. Like this is insane. You mean?
Yeah, we kept Wax open
Yeah.
for a lot of after hours.
I'm at 5:45. I'm like, oh, seriously?
We had some famous bartenders there back then, like they got behind that bar and made cocktails. A lot of stuff happened in that bar.
And then,
That's
who have you remained friends with? Like, still right that you still kind of keep in contact with from like that era.
pretty much everybody. Yeah, I haven't like I mean I don't see them as regularly, but I'm still in touch with like I didn't really change my people. I mean, I'm a Leo. I'm loyal. Like, you could
You
be 100 and I'll call you to do a door.
um, yeah, because like, I always thought for me, I was always like, Amber Knows is good friends with all these supermodels. And I was like, I just knew it was like a genuine, real friendship. And it wasn't like a PR person doing a party for Giselle. It's like you all were real friends and you probably were
Yeah.
and said, hey, we should do a party. It always felt that way. It always felt real.
Well, because Harry wasn't, yeah, I got everyone involved. Like Harry Josh, the hairdresser, kind of took the torch from me and like kept my legacy of my spring fling going, and he did a fantastic job. I
God,
mean, he really kept the fun going, and
I worked that party for him. Like,
yeah, a few times.
that was your, thing. I totally forgot.
Yeah, so I like passed the torch on to him, and I mean that spring fling lived forever. I think this year was like the first year there wasn't one. Um,
Right.
and the original one started because I needed money for rent. Like that's why I talked. I forget who. I think it was Amy that I was like, "Can we do a spring fling?" And she was like, "Oh, that's cute. Yeah, totally. You gotta have Amy. You gotta have all Amy and those guys on. You know."
Amy, what place? Amy Sacco, but what place was it at? The first one.
I think the first spring fling was. I think it was Lot 61. It was either Lot 6. Yeah, it was Lot 61. I think.
Because it's interesting because I remember Lot 61 being short-lived, but so much happened in like the 2 years.
Oh my God, we did so much there. Like Sarah Tabares was there. Do you remember Sarah? Yeah, and Amy, and that's where Ben Pundle came from, was Lot 61.
I know.
Yeah.
He said, and he was on here. I didn't know this. He said that he used to work at, I think, Morgan's or something in London, and Madonna came in. Madonna got him the job at Lot 61 somehow. It's like a really weird story.
Oh, that's random. Yeah, totally. I
Yeah.
remember when he was coming because he was coming from London, and I remember like the whole thing because like I was tight with Sarah and Amy, and like I remember there was a new guy coming. It was like, oh, this is like the girl place.
And so, what do you think of like, you seem to really love Miami right now. You love Miami,
Oh,
right?
I love Miami. Yeah, I love it.
And what do you love about it?
I think just now for me, it's just about it's simple. It's simple, but it's like it's colorful because it's still got so many different people. And I live right on the beach, so I'm like, and I'm in the middle of it. Like I live in the thick of it, so it has like a New York vibe to it. And For me, I like the pace. Like I love being able to go to the beach in the morning. I love that I take my morning walk along the path. For me, it's just like slower, but it's still colorful, and we still get a lot of things. I mean, you come down for a lot of the events.
Yep.
It's like weird that Basel's not happening this week, right? Like, but there's like kind of an underground Basel happening right now that I can see happen. Like, I'm getting invitations to, and I'm like, I don't know.
Well, Miami's totally open, right?
We are totally open.
Closed. We're totally closed here. 100% closed. I'm like, we're 80% closed right now.
Right, because you're in LA, right? On Wednesday, they shut it all, right? Yeah.
Crazy. And then what do you think of New York now in a not like hater type way? Like, what, in an optimistic way, how do you feel about New York? Not COVID New York. I'm talking about New York in the past 5 years, let's say,
I never hate New York. You know how I always talk about New York is like it's like a bad boyfriend, and you shouldn't be going out with him, but you still go and you get a little, extra on the side with him. And New York is kind of that to me. Like I feel like New York's always going to be my booty call. I will always love it no matter how crazy it is or what it does. It's still my city.
Yeah, it's because I love New York as well, and New York is extremely resilient. And I believe, and I've said this many times on this show, is that because of what's going on in the world, New York's going to have a creative resurgence because it's going to,
I think it's already happening. I mean, Nur and my friend Frank, who owns Frankie's out in Brooklyn, they
yeah.
keep telling me that New York is like happening right now. Like it's like they're like, you need to come back.
I feel it. It's going to get kind of like the New York that just a really creative resurgence in the fact that it's going to be a little more desperate, a little more grimy, but also
Gritty. But
yeah.
that's when New York thrives, right? That's when the artists are, I feel like everyone kind of got pushed out, like that's kind of why I moved when I did. Like I was just kind of like, oh, this is getting so sanitized. It's like, even though I was living in Brooklyn the last bit that I was there, I don't know, I just felt like it lost its way a bit.
Yeah. But I believe it's a pendulum. It went, kind of far this way. It's going to go back to the cool way, or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but it's going to be dangerous, but it's also going to be really fun. So,
Danger's fun. I mean, listen, Miami Beach has a lot of danger on it.
100%. It's dangerous there alone. So.
Oh my God. Yeah, I had stabbing outside my apartment last Saturday.
Oh. So, what do you focus on now? What are you focusing on?
Still doing press. I do more branding. Like I consult on brands, like people creating like longevity for what they're doing, helping them with getting merchandise together and logo, like putting a whole creative team together for them. So that's kind of what I've been doing lately.
Yeah.
And, figuring it out, like COVID's made everything really different because, my job so much is about travel.
We should plan a Halloween party coming 2021 right now. Sorry.
We should do a Halloween party for 2021. Where would we have it?
And get everybody together. Get everybody to host it.
I know we were talking about that yesterday. My friend Danny Baker's here visiting, and we were like, oh, we should do like some kind of reunion thing. Like everyone's been kind of thrown around.
Yeah.
This last year, yeah.
We should do it in New York. Everybody host, like everybody.
Yeah, it would be really fun just to like come up with a great theme. Maybe it's about like Mad Max or the end of the world or something.
And then you'll say, do you have something to wear, Mad Max? And I'm like, how rude.
Yeah, we'll go back. We'll just repeat our old pattern.
And so if you had to name, I guess, the 5 best parties you've ever experienced, doesn't have to be your parties. What do you think they are? Like, could be, a night, random night, or what? Like.
Last year, the Christian Dior party down here for fashion for Basel. That was insane. I mean, it was mind blowing. It was like at the oh my God, I can't remember if it was the Margolis or the Rubel. I think it was the Rubel Museum. It was insane. They just spared no expense. It was really cool. I did a David LaChapelle book party years ago. That was really cool. You can just imagine it was David LaChapelle, so that was like out of control. The Kate and Naomi party for sure. Actually, Well, I know there was one party in Paris that it was like in the basement of the Ritz and the Millionaires. That was pretty insane. And some of the fashion parties, like I think there's so many I can't even pick like another one. But those are like my top ones I think of when I think of like, oh, parties, you know?
I mean, what's
That
kind of
one.
wildest situation that happened, like, like we're saying, like, she needs a milkshake or something, but what's something like, way, I'm sure that, we talked about it. There's so many crazy things that happen throughout the night that you kind of just like, shield them all off as the night goes by. But what sticks out is kind of like the craziest or some of the craziest things that people have either you've had to do for people or people have had.
I have to say I haven't had too many people ask me to do crazy things for them. Like more about just making sure stuff doesn't get in the media, like more that kind of stuff. I don't know. I had a couple surprising things where I caught a couple very famous directors in some compromising situations by accident because like someone came to me, they're like, the door's stuck. No one, someone's been in there forever. And I like got the door, like pulled the door on the door and like saw things I couldn't unsee. And then there were a couple times at the park upstairs in the lounge when I was doing that with Sean and Eric. There was some mischief that got up to in that hot tub and around the hot tub that I can't unsee either.
Someone get locked inside wax, like for the night on accident? Some actor?
Oh yeah, I think that did happen actually.
Was like in the bathroom with some girl or something, and they
We're in the basement.
for the whole till the next day.
I don't remember that, but it probably happened for sure. I mean, there was like a lot of moments at Wax that were like
It was
epic.
the 90s. And then if you could invite four people to dinner, living or dead, who would you invite?
Andy Warhol,
Great.
Francis Bacon, Dolly Parton, and
Good.
Cher.
Oh, amazing. That dinner.
It'd be a different dinner, right?
Okay, so Amber, what inspires you right now in life? What are you inspired
I'm
by?
actually being really inspired back by my art roots. Like I'm totally getting back into art. Like I kind of feel like I shelved it for a minute and I had galleries for years and I'm kind of feeling the art again. I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's because I feel the creatives coming back to New York. I feel
Absolutely.
like we have creative coming down here. I'm really like into the art thing again. Feeling like I want to be doing something in that world again.
Well, what I said is that a couple months, first month or two of the quarantine, um, I felt like not that I wasn't myself. I felt like I got back to who I was in a way, though, or what my
Yes, me too.
core of who you are. We just got busy with life. It's not that we weren't ourselves. We just got busy.
Yeah.
Traveling, flying, doing this thing, but back to back to back. My schedule was pretty crazy, and I like it that way, and I'm very happy with it. But like, when you had time to sit down, you kind of I remembered who I am. Does that make sense?
Me too. Like I started to pull like I started to get back into like I was super into like poetry and into old movies and things like that. And I feel like I've totally nurtured that back into my life. And the art thing is really coming strong. Like I don't know if it's like, with all the cosmic stuff that's happening, I just feel like that is really coming full force. And I don't know, I love the stories behind it and everything. So I don't know, I feel like that's going to be in my next chapter for sure.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like we got the with all of this. I say, we all have learned so much this year, and we have, if you didn't learn this year, you're not a human. Like you're
Yeah,
a
you get your card revoked.
heart. But like, if you didn't learn this year, I feel like you had to have learned. But I feel like in the way we got re-inspired. So
I completely feel that. I feel that's the gift that COVID gave us was that you're moving so fast and it's a different world with technology. And I think about all those things that we talked about tonight. There were no phones for any of that. There was no social media. There was no anything. We did all that just from like friendships and networks. And, I think that that's kind of important too.
that's why I like having these kind of chats because you and I know these stories, but I like sharing them, with other people because like there
Yeah.
really no documentation of this stuff. Like people don't know that story about Naomi. Like, I know the story, and I just told you. See what I'm saying? Like,
And there's so many more. I mean, there's like infinite. I mean, it would take hours to sit and like talk about those moments that you had with these iconic people. I mean, there's so many stories of,
well,
you know.
Doug was coming early, and you having to like, hang out with him. I remember that vividly. He was one of the first people there. It was like 8 people, and I remember it vividly. Him coming to that party.
Oh, Ed, did you say Ed Norton?
No, when
Or
he came early, I remember that.
yeah. I
Um,
don't know. There's like so many, yeah, there's so many moments like with the old timers too, like with Jack, I had moments with Jack Nicholson that are like, I mean, they're like, you can't even imagine. Like these are legends. And you know what? People today don't even know who he is, like young kids, because it's weird, you know?
like I did something with Sheryl Crow at the Club Shine, and Angelica Houston came, and we had
Love her.
an amazing moment at the door. She ended up talking to me for an hour at the door. But Stevie Nicks came as Sheryl Crow's like surprise guest. So they lied to me and said the start time was earlier, so I'd get there early so that I wouldn't be late, basically. And so I got to see Stevie Nicks do sound check. It was just me, her.
I love that. Like that's a New York moment.
Yeah. And then she wanted a tea, and her manager was there, and they said, "Can anyone get a tea?" And I was early, and I didn't know what to do. I'm like, "I'll go get the tea." And she tried to Stevie Nicks tried to give me coins, like $1.25 in quarters. I'm like, get this for you.
Yeah, like Stevie, I got this, girl. I got this for you.
That kind of
Yeah.
stuff, kind of pre-social media as well. I think I can't really remember, but like that kind of stuff only happens like New York moment. So
Yeah, and I feel like, I mean, I just did a thing with Angelica Houston a couple of years ago where I had to work on something with her. And I mean, I mean, she's everything you want her to be. She's so amazing. And like all the old school people, like in the last couple of years, I got to meet Streisand because I was doing something with another project, and Paul Simon. And you know what? I had like these amazing conversations with them that like I will never, I mean, people, that's not going to happen anymore. Like they're getting older, and they're so iconic and they're such class acts.
Angelica in particular, I don't know, I haven't met the other two, but she was such a vibrant human, just a vibrant.
Oh, I mean, amazing. Like, I mean, she was everything I wanted her to be. Like, sometimes when you meet celebrities, you're like, oh God, I wish I never met that person.
I did parties last year. That's insane to me. Like, still, I'm like, I can't believe it. I'm like, did I really do that? Like it really does get. We have amazing.
Blessed.
Yeah, totally.
Blessed lives. I know sometimes I'm like, oh my God, is this really happening? Like, do you ever find yourself standing in a situation where you're like, I was like this kid that like dreamed about this stuff watching the Mike Douglas show, and now I'm actually like
Totally
hanging out with this person, having like a real one-on-one conversation.
Well, I would say too, the joke is on them because I would have done it for free. They have no idea. I would have done this for free.
Same here. Same for me with those people especially.
I mean, I would have paid them.
Exactly.
So, Amber, one more question before we wrap it up. What are you grateful for in life?
I am grateful that somewhere along the way, I was given the advice to like say yes to everything and just be open and just trust and go forward. And I think that that's afforded me like a very special life, because I think that so many times people get caught by fear and worrying. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like that's probably the biggest gift I had. And I don't even remember who instilled that.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it was probably my grandmother, because she was pretty like fabulous. Yeah. But yeah, it's something I've carried with me my whole life. So
Great. That's awesome. That's great advice that anyone in any like career path or life path could take.
yeah, just say yes. You don't have anything to lose.
And then finally, it is a weird time. People aren't really working and things. How can we support you right now? Is there any way that we can support Amber Clapp?
I don't know. I have like a side hobby of like taking pictures of the beach on my Instagram. So just like follow that. And I don't know. I think I'm pretty good right now, and I appreciate any support in any way. Like just keep up on my Instagram and see what's going on and support through that.
Well, the takeaway from me is that we should do a party from this. You're going to be all excited about back in the day, but we should do something for sure and really do a big one and do it right. Get like
Yes.
Oh, shalom.
I would love to do like another epic event. I mean, everyone's going to be like, I don't know if we can get everyone there, but it would be really fun if we did.
2021, let's plan it. It'll be really fun.
And I love coming on this. I love coming on this show. Like this was like such a great thing.
Yeah, no, okay, so
I feel like we need to do a book.
this is my 110th episode, and like I said, we're here to
Magic number.
and Amber, you have been so important. And I was like, thinking a lot of people, like I have a couple of friends that watch every night and they don't even know who you are. And I'm like, Amber, you've been so important to culture.
Thank you.
Event that was listed in Vogue magazine as a top 10 events of the century. So, the reality is, you did everything with such passion. You were always, like I said, you were always calm and cool, and you were fair, and you were, like you said, loyal, and you didn't really treat Michael Douglas better than the busboy. You've always been that kind of person. And
yeah, everyone's the same to me. Like that's true.
And you were really smart in kind of picking people that worked around you that would only support you and have your back, which of course we always did. And you've just done some really great things with passion and integrity, and things that really defined a decade in New York City. So.
Oh, I really appreciate that. Well, I couldn't have done it alone. Like I had a huge amount of support and a lot of great people around. I mean, amazing friends and staff and everything. I mean,
yeah, but the secret to your success is that everyone likes you. So all the
oh, thanks.
not getting in. Remember, not getting in, but the secret to your success is that everyone was there for you. Really, they were there for each other, but they were really there for you. So.
Oh, that's lovely. I really appreciate that, David. That's very sweet.
And we worked our butts off back then. I was not thinking about it.
Oh my God. You guys worked so hard, you and Linda. I mean, remember even Model Citizen, you guys were like at the charity events.
So many events. All right, my darling. I love you. I thank you very much for doing this. And we're doing a party.
You too. We are doing a party. It's on. We got to think of a theme.
Yes, we have plenty of time and we'll figure it out.
Awesome. It was so awesome to do this. Thank you, Damon. Thanks everyone that tuned in. Bye.